Are we witnessing the slow-motion collapse of a franchise that once promised everything to its fans? The Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that has tantalized supporters for decades with glimpses of greatness only to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, now find themselves in perhaps their most precarious position in years. After trading away their 102-point superstar Mitch Marner and scrambling to fill the gaping holes in their roster, the question isn't whether they'll disappoint again, it's how spectacularly they'll do it this time. Let's be brutally honest about what happened here. The Maple Leafs didn't just trade Mitch Marner to the Vegas Golden Knights, they surrendered their offensive soul. This wasn't a calculated business decision. This was a franchise waving the white flag after yet another playoff humiliation. Marner, fresh off a phenomenal 102-point campaign, immediately signed an 8-year, $96 million deal with Vegas, essentially telling Toronto and its faithful fan base exactly what he thought about their championship aspirations. Think about the psychological impact of this move. Here's a player who grew up dreaming of wearing the blue and white, who became the face of a new generation of Maple Leafs hockey, walking away the moment he had the chance. If that doesn't send shockwaves through the organization and its supporters, nothing will. Marner's departure isn't just about losing points on the scoreboard. It's about losing credibility, losing faith, and losing the belief that Toronto can ever get over the hump. The numbers are staggering when you really break them down. Marner's 102 points last season represented nearly 15% of the team's total offensive output. You don't simply replace that kind of production with spare parts and hope for the best. Yet somehow, the Maple Leafs front office seems to believe they can work magic with significantly lesser talent. In response to hemorrhaging their top offensive weapon, Toronto embarked on what can only be described as a desperate shopping spree for bargain bin replacements. They acquired Nicholas Roy from Vegas as part of the Marner deal, brought in Matias Maccelli from Utah, and signed Dakota Joshua from Vancouver. On paper, these moves might look like shrewd acquisitions. In reality, they represent the hockey equivalent of trying to replace a Ferrari engine with parts from 3 different economy cars. Nicholas Roy, while a capable player, has never cracked the 50-point mark in his NHL career. Maccelli, despite showing flashes of brilliance, is still largely unproven at the highest level. Joshua brings grit and determination, but he's not going to quarterback a power play or create offense out of thin air. These are complementary pieces, not franchise-changing acquisers. The most telling aspect of these moves is what they reveal about Toronto's current philosophy. They're no longer swinging for the fences. They're hoping to scratch and claw their way to respectability. It's a stunning fall from grace for an organization that once boldly proclaimed its intention to build a championship contender around young, elite talent. Here's where the story takes an even more concerning turn. The Maple Leafs now find themselves in the awkward position of having too many mediocre forwards and not enough cap space to address their real needs. David Kampf, once viewed as a valuable depth acquisition, has become a $2.4 million albatross around the team's neck. The proposed trade sending Kampf to Anaheim for a 6th-round pick perfectly encapsulates Toronto's current predicament. They're not looking to improve their team through trades anymore. They're simply trying to dump salary to create breathing room. This is what NHL purgatory looks like. Good enough to avoid complete disaster, but nowhere near good enough to compete for anything meaningful. Kampf's situation is particularly frustrating because he's not a bad player. His 51.2% face-off winning percentage and solid defensive play would be valuable assets on a properly constructed roster. But when you're paying bottom 6 forwards like top 6 players, you fundamentally mismanage your salary cap structure. The fact that David Pagnotta reports both Kampf and Kaye Jarnkrok remain available for trade speaks volumes about the organization's desperation to create financial flexibility. From Anaheim's perspective, acquiring Kampf would be a low-risk, potentially high-reward move. The Ducks have over $20 million in cap space and could easily absorb Kampf's contract without blinking. For a rebuilding team, adding a veteran presence with proven defensive instincts and face-off prowess could provide valuable stability in their bottom 6. The beauty of this potential deal lies in its simplicity. Anaheim gets a reliable role player who can contribute immediately, while Toronto sheds salary and gains even a minimal draft pick. It's the kind of mutually beneficial transaction that keeps the NHL trade market functioning, even if it represents a pretty damning indictment of where the Maple Leafs currently stand. What makes this trade even more appealing for the Ducks is Kampf's versatility. He can play center, contribute on the penalty kill, and provide the kind of veteran leadership that young teams desperately need. In Anaheim's development-focused environment, Kampf could actually thrive in ways he might not in Toronto's pressure cooker atmosphere. This entire Kampf trade scenario represents something much larger and more troubling about the current state of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've reached the point where they're making moves not to improve their team, but simply to create enough financial wiggle room to function. That's not championship thinking, that's survival thinking. The organization that once confidently assembled one of the most potent offensive cores in hockey is now reduced to salary dump trades for late-round draft picks. The team that promised its long-suffering fanbase a new era of success is now scrambling to find takers for their role players. This is what happens when grand plans collide with harsh salary cap realities and repeated playoff failures. Perhaps most concerning is the message these moves send to the remaining core players. When Austin Matthews and William Nylander watch the organization trade away proven contributors for cap relief, what conclusion are they supposed to draw about management's commitment to winning? The Maple Leafs are dangerously close to creating a culture where their best players start looking for exits rather than solutions. The potential David Kampf trade to Anaheim might seem like a minor move in the grand scheme of things, but it perfectly illustrates the Maple Leafs' current trajectory. They're not making moves to get better anymore. They're making moves to avoid getting worse. That's a dangerous mindset for any organization, but it's particularly troubling for one that has promised its fanbase championship contention for the better part of a decade. The harsh reality is that the Maple Leafs may have already missed their window. The core that was supposed to deliver Toronto's first Stanley Cup since 1967 is aging expensive and showing no signs of being able to overcome their playoff demons. Trading away supplementary pieces like Kampf for minimal returns while struggling with basic roster construction suggests that the problems run much deeper than anyone wants to admit. As we watch this potential trade unfold, remember that we're witnessing more than just a simple hockey transaction. We're seeing the slow dismantling of what once looked like a championship-caliber organization, one salary dump trade at a time. What do you think about the Maple Leafs' current direction? Are they making the right moves to create a sustainable winner, or are we watching a franchise that's lost its way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss whether Toronto can find a path back to respectability, or if this is just the beginning of a much longer rebuild than anyone anticipated. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Maple Leafs' fascinating and frustrating situation.